Gather around. It's time for the show to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, this is...
Hey everyone, my name is Jason.
Hi friends, it's Desiree Josen.
All right, there were so many matches this year that were just too much.
So this won't be a shocker because we've had a handful of really awesome matches that we just can't stop talking about.
How many times have these guys fought? Like it's been quite a bit.
I've been saying this all year. They're just so great to watch. We saw the heel turn coming, and then when it happened, nice and bloody, both dramatic and beautiful.
You are now entering the ring with Chutes and Ladders podcast. Here are your hosts, Desiree and Jason.
Chutes and Ladders Celebration Spotlight Sabu. What's going on, everyone? My name is Jason.
Hi friends, it's Desiree Josen.
Alright, the wrestling world lost a legend who revolutionized wrestling with his hardcore style. And for the first time in Chutes and Ladders history, we are going to do a celebration spotlight. What is your initial thoughts, Des?
This one is a tough one. I think this was a really big shock to everybody because we didn't see this one coming. And this one's tough, and he's a big legend, and he's loved by so many and many generations of wrestling fans. He's the homicidal, genocidal, death-defying, but he is an idol at the end of the day. So,
yeah, absolutely. Listen, this really hits home to me. Obviously, I've said this many, many times. I'm a huge ECW guy. It's been over 20 years, and I still will profess how great of a promotion that is, and that was. And actually, is because the style of ECW still resonates to this day. And without Sabu, there's no ECW. End of story. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and go through this one by one. All right, so the initial reaction to his passing, what do you have to say about that, Des?
Like I said, this one, we were talking about this previously. He just wrestled just a few weeks ago. He was doing signings, and he looked to be in decent condition to be 60, but I hate this because we're now at the age of some of our favorite guys that we grew up with are starting to not be in the best health. So it's really tough to see these guys go. And especially when we weren't anticipating it happening anytime soon. At least we didn't. I didn't know of any medical conditions besides like the standard ones that they typically have with aging. So, but I do know the wrestling community as a whole have celebrated him, and there are tons of people coming out just speaking really great stories like Booker T and Sandman and RVD. It's really heartbreaking because, these guys are brothers, and yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, absolutely. So just what stood out to me as far as, especially the wrestlers coming out, Rob Van Dam, we obviously know their history together. That was honestly one of the greatest tag teams I've ever seen. The Rolling Thunder. I can go on and on about it. This episode's not to geek out per se, but Rob Van Dam obviously kind of expressed his sentiment. Sandman. We've actually had a couple of interactions with Sandman as far as, via social media. I know he's been really posting heavily on his social media, celebrating Sabu. They've had many matches that were just hardcore. I'm sure you can rewatch those, and it was just it's been just, they kind of epitomized ECW because they aren't necessarily traditional wrestlers, especially back in the 90s. So that was special. Jerry Lynn is a technician, one of the best technical wrestlers I've ever seen, and even someone like Jerry Lynn he really expressed his sentiment as well. So that just goes to show you that the broad spectrum of how many people love them. And most importantly, at least to me, just because of their rivalry, Taz actually put out a video and said, Sabu put me over and put him on the map. So if without Sabu, there's no ECW, there's no Taz.
Right.
And that actually set up one of the greatest rivalries in ECW history. So he had, which goes to show you, he had no problem putting other wrestlers over. And that just says a lot about anybody. So this is just, it was so cool.
Yeah.
All right. Impact of ECW. I have a lot to say about this, but let me hear you first.
I think you can speak volumes on everything. We know you are the ECW guy. For me, like you mentioned before, he is a pillar for ECW. When I think of him, or ECW, I think of Sabu, I think of RVD, Sandman, all of them. Those are the standard names, and these guys put their bodies on the line for this. And I mean, I'll just let you take it from here because this is one of the loves of your life.
Absolutely. All right, we already talked about Taz. Listen, the matches that he had with Rob Van Dam, from a tag team perspective, they were doing things that you've never seen before, and they were both like athletic and did moonsaults and stuff like that. But when they had like the combination moves, the move you see from Fraxium, for example, again, I could argue that stemmed from Rob Van Dam and Sabu. So, like, it wasn't necessarily done at the time, and they kind of invented that. And we obviously know about Sandman, but there are other names out there: Tommy Dreamer, Shane Douglas. Oh man, I mean, obviously the Dudleys back then, the Big Dick Dudleys, little Spike Dudley. I mean, all these. Remember, absolutely. And the guys in the locker room, they look up to someone like Sabu, and that holds a lot of weight, and they try to mimic his style. And there's plenty of wrestlers today that'll say the same thing. And again, ECW obviously, of course, but even the independent scene, a lot of these guys were kind of mimicking him. If you ever get to watch the documentary, there's two documentaries. Obviously, there's the one of the rise and fall of ECW, and then Shane Douglas actually spearheaded another one. You get to hear Sabu talk. Sabu was basically a temporary wrestler for ECW. He came out like Hannibal Lecter. He didn't want to do it. He thought it was a one-time deal, and they kept asking him to do it. So he said, "Fine, let's do it." And he was doing these barbed wire matches and like things that just were just not heard of at the time. So if it wasn't for him, I can just go on about all the different wrestlers, but I mean, they had barbed wire matches. They had bombs going off. Cactus Jack, Cactus Jack was expressing how Sabu helped him elevate. I mean, a lot of his hardcore style came from Sabu. So, I mean, this is one of the legends, regardless of promotion. So, yeah, point blank, no Sabu, no ECW.
100% agree.
Yeah. All right, and legacy in wrestling. I mean, I think we kind of said it, but is there anything you want to add as far as his legacy goes?
One thing I love about him is that he sacrificed his body. You could see the visible scarring on it was everywhere. And you mentioned the barbed wire. He wrestled with that. He wrestled with fire in the ring, where some of the wrestlers backstage left the venue because they were like, this is too much of a hazard. But what many have spoke about him is he was very quiet, minded his own business. He was a very, off to himself, but very kind. Outside of the ring, but in the ring, he always gave 100%. He never threw a match. He gave everything. So he may have been quiet outside of the ring, but he was loud in the ring. And it was just a big impression to the fans. And, and what's really awesome is it wasn't just ECW, it was WCW at the time, WWF. He did some dark matches there. Japan, he was really big in Japan. So he was multiple promotions spread out. Everyone loved him. So, I mean, he was just a megastar when it comes to hardcore wrestling.
Yeah. And you know what? Everything he did hurt. And you want to talk about mind over matter? Yeah, he definitely took that to a new level, because it's almost worse sometimes to know what's going to happen to you, and for you to still do it is just wild. Yeah. So and then like you said, a lot of wrestlers are like, yeah, we're not doing this. It's too much. So yeah. All right, some of favorite memories and matches. Wow, I have a couple that really stood out, but what do you have to say?
This one's really funny. I loved his shiny pants when he walked out. So that was just me being a girl. But when I think of him, it's barbed wire. I will always think about that. And there was that match, I believe it was with Terry Funk, where they removed the ropes and just redid it.
Born to be Wired.
Yes.
97. I'll never forget that. They ran that promo nonstop. I used to rehearse that promo just because it was Paul Heyman did the VO.
Yep.
It was, yeah, it was. He even said there's those who say that the Born to Be Wired match was too extreme, even for ECW. Judge for
Yes.
yourself, and that's all the promo was. And wow, did it like the
They weren't wrong. And the fact that he cut open his bicep with the barbed wire and then he found tape or duct tape and then wrapped it around his bicep and continued to finish the match. I think that was the match that Paul Heyman said that we'll never do that again because no one could ever top this. That shows you right there the impact on that. But I mean, it's just stuff like that. I think of the fact that he came in, I think 2 weeks within ECW, won the championship from Shane Douglas, and then like a month later, won another title from Terry Funk, and he became a double champion. Like within weeks of each other.
Yeah.
It's insane. And, he's synonymous with RVD and Taz. So, yeah, he's a legend.
Absolutely. All right, listen, I have three. First off is Sabu and Rob Van Dam, because I mentioned too much, versus Jinsei Shinzaki and Hayabusa. This was at Heatwave 98. At the time, I didn't think anything of Heatwave 98. Heatwave 98 ended up being the greatest ECW pay-per-view of all time. I will go to bat for that. I would love to hear other ECW fans' take, but that's the greatest ECW pay-per-view of all time. And part of that is because that match was 5-star. It's just 5-star all around. Pun intended, because Rob Van Dam does a 5-star frog splash. But yeah, had to put it on there. Born to Be Wired 1997. We already talked about that. That promo needed 2 sentences, and it sold. And it was, and I remember watching it, just being like, wow. Like and now looking back at it, you're like, because no one's really gonna do that again. Again, ECW is known for being hardcore. And for this to for them to say, yo, this is too hardcore for us, that just speaks volumes of what that match was and how it was represented. And then last, definitely not least, and again, I'm not ranking these per se, it was just too tough, Sabu versus Taz, Falls Count Anywhere match for the FTW and ECW World Championship, Living Dangerously 1999. Mm-hmm. And I say that because this is one of the greatest rivalries of all time. They fought countless times. They put each other over. They elevated each other. What's interesting too is like they don't necessarily have the same skill sets ring wise. I mean, Taz is more of a ring technician, and Sabu is just a high flyer, just maniac. But it worked. It worked, and I have to say that I had to throw that out there just because, again, when I think of Sabu, I definitely think of RVD, them being partners, and also him and Taz. So those are the matches that definitely stand out to me.
Those are good ones.
All right, any final thoughts on Sabu?
No, I hate that he's gone.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that, what I love about this is when someone passes, everyone sends out a quick thing and we move on. This time it's been a good week or two and people are coming out of nowhere, just opening up their interviews, podcasts, and stories and sharing these really positive things about him. So I'm glad we can celebrate him. And, even though he's not here, his legend, his everything, his story will live on. So
yeah, absolutely. And there are people already vouching for this now. Let's just do this right. Since WWE technically bought out ECW, Sabu goes to Hall of Fame. End of story. Yeah, no doubt. This is no question. And in fact, they should, if there is a hardcore type match, it should be name branded with Sabu. Whether it's a trophy or whatever the case is, 100%. Like whether it's a tournament, where you have to do it, because again, without Sabu revolutionized wrestling, and wrestlers to this day are actually taking what they learned from him and applying it today.
Yeah.
All right, that actually wraps up this episode. What are your thoughts on Sabu? Please DM us at the Chutes and Ladders. Like always, please like, share, and subscribe both on YouTube and Spotify. Once again, my name is Jason.
I'm Desiree Joseph.
All right, until next time, have a blessed day and a blessed week.
Bye, friends.
This has been Chutes and Ladders. Follow us for more content.